Hello everyone, back to today's second video of the Weekend Podcast. You can find video to that here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a bit and it's underneath the link ads. There's also a written version. You get to that via buttons at the top of the page. And it looks like it's going to be a fairly changeable week ahead coming up, so I'll let you have a look at that and see what you think. It does take us into the bank holiday weekend. So this is the CFS 6 months look ahead. We're going to do what the name says on the tin. We're going to go at 6 months ahead with the long range CFS B2 model. It's just for fun. It's not to be relied upon. It's just a snapshot really of what the model is showing. So it's going to take us from next month, from June through to November, going towards the latter stages of the year. Now, obviously, in the first month or two, it does have some scientific merit, hopefully, because the model is getting things right. Then you hope that it is picking up the signal for the next month or two. But as you move out beyond sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months, the further out you're going, the lower the confidence you're getting. So when you get to sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months away, that really is in the realm of just for fun. And it's a snapshot of what the model is showing right now. Next month it could look very different, of course. So I'll take you through 700 millibar heights first of all, and then we'll have a look at the corresponding temperature and corresponding precipitation anomalies that go with those 500 millibar heights. We're going to start off in June, and this, if everything's working right, this should be the most reliable part of the whole thing. So this is the 700 millibar height anomaly for June 2017 from CFS V2. And not a huge amount to go on, really. We've got a little bit of an area of above average heights there to the north. So hints of a little bit of northern blocking, which is something we've seen quite a lot of during May, of course. So high pressure not far from Iceland. Then low pressure is in the Atlantic, and not much else is going on. You assume this low pressure is perhaps undercutting this ridge that's up here, so it might not be the greatest signal in the world. Although there's not a lot to go on, it could be that this trough here around Newfoundland will be sending energy underneath the block. And it's only a small blocking feature anyway. It's not a strong signal, but there is a little bit of a blocking signal there. So it could be that this area of low pressure just here is sending energy underneath the block, possibly producing an unsettled-ish month. Excuse me. We go through to July, and this is a much simpler pattern to decipher. So got an area above average heights close to the UK, below average heights up to the north through there, and we're just bringing jet stream through like that. This could be a fairly decent month actually in July. I wouldn't be necessarily promising you a heat wave, because I think the air and the flow is likely to be coming off the Atlantic, which isn't going to be all that warm, of course, during it isn't going to be all that warm during July. The hottest direction is going to be south or east. Don't really see much sign of that. But it could be a very pleasant month with a fair amount of dry weather, high pressure close to the country, low pressure more over towards Iceland and Greenland. I think overall that could be a fairly reasonable month in July. Now, you get through to August, and it's all going rather difficult to predict again. We've got above average heights now setting up to the northeast of the country. So, signs that we go back, perhaps a little bit more of a block setup in August. And then otherwise, not really a huge amount to be going with there. We could have low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, of course, like that. Conversely, we might have easterlies coming in around that area of high pressure. And again, if we go over here, we've got the high pressure up here, so that might be bringing in east winds, which of course in August are going to be hot. That'll be bringing in hot easterly winds if it is like that. But because there's nothing really going on in the Atlantic, it's difficult to say. If we were seeing a trough, say, stalled around here and then ridging around here, then that would be a hot signal. But we're not seeing those signs. So it might be that the low pressure is running in underneath this ridge. And if that happens, of course, it's a cool, wet Atlantic signal for August. So really you can't make a forecast, I don't think, based on the 700 millibar height anomaly for August. This is how September is looking. Now, we're 4 months out, so we are going into the really unreliable part of all of this. But September shows that we get the autumn off to probably quite a coolish and dryish start. So we've got above average heights out to our northwest, which presumably is going to be bringing the wind in from the east or the northeast, rather, like that. So again, fairly dry because we're blocking off the Atlantic there. We're not bringing in westerlies particularly. They're going and doing something a bit like that. There could be an area below average heights within the 500 or 700 millibar flow somewhere to our south or east, which might bring more unsettled conditions into the south and the east. But overall, I would say that's a fairly dryish looking signal for September, but probably quite cool with the wind flow going something a bit like that. October looking like this, and again, a lot of dry weather, you will think, if it comes off like this. So we've got above average heights generally over and just to the west of the UK. Below average heights are forming around Greenland, so of course that's the polar vortex getting going. But for us, again, I think jet stream is probably pushed to the north. Fair amount of dry weather with this ridge of high pressure. So September and October both looking pretty dry. And then goes through to November. It's 6 months away, just for fun, not worth worrying about. What we see in November is that that area of above average heights is going into the central part of the Atlantic. Below average heights are still up here. Otherwise, not a huge amount to go with. But I will think probably we're bringing the Atlantic back a little bit more in November. So that could be a rather more unsettled month, perhaps. And maybe not overly warm either, because the way the ridge is sitting in there in the central part of the Atlantic, we're probably going to be bringing the wind flow down rather from the northwest, so the air could be originating up here, which of course isn't going to be overly warm. But I have to emphasise again, it's 6 months away. No one I'm going to say, it's just for fun, so let's not get too hung up about that. Right, let's see if we can put a little bit of flesh to the bones then in terms of some detail. And we're going to start off with the temperature anomaly for June. So coming back to just 1 month away, hopefully, the model is getting things right. June is the most reliable of all of this. And what we saw for June, of course, is that we got the slight blocking signal up here. And then there was low pressure sort of over here. You can't see Newfoundland and Canada on this sort of view, but we know low pressure is around here. And then otherwise there wasn't much else to go on. The temperature anomaly, well, it's coming out a little bit milder than average for Scotland and Ireland. England and Wales is close to average, and you notice that actually most of Europe, it's a fairly coolish signal, really, that, for Europe. It's quite unusual to get these charts going, especially cold, so you often don't see that. But when you see this kind of anomaly, which is generally average across most parts of Europe, and little splotches of colder or cooler than average, one there, more over here. When you see that kind of anomaly, it's a fairly coolish month, really, that the model is predicting. So quite a cool month for Europe. For the UK, average for England and Wales, a little bit milder than average for Scotland and Northern Ireland. That flips around a little bit in July. So for north of the country, north of the UK, is going to average. The south is going to warmer than average. So again, we've got that ridge sitting somewhere around here and here. We've got low pressure going on up here, and bringing the jet stream through just to the north of the country, probably. So that's why it's fairly warm around there. But again, overall, it isn't a particularly hot-looking signal in either June or July. And then August, well, what do we make of that? It just goes average again, but again, you see most parts of Europe, they are coming out average, but we've got these little splotches of blue, these little splotches of colder or cooler than average temperature anomaly. So again, you have to say that's quite a coolish looking chart, because normally these models are inclined to go warm. Very often they can go warm big time, and you'll just get a sea of orange or red from Ireland and Portugal and West over to Russia, and you should tend to get that more, of course, in the winter. But at any time, really, they are, these long-range models, season models, they are a little bit biased towards the warmer side of things. So that's quite a coolish looking chart again that we see there for August. This continues into September. Again, not much to go on at all in terms of the temperature anomaly in September. It's basically averaged cooler than average. The coolest temperature anomalies are over towards the northeast, but really nothing again to work with in September. And then we go through to October, and again it's more of the same. So it's average to a little bit on the cooler than average side, particularly for the eastern part, northeastern part of Europe. So it's a little bit cooler than average. Highlighter, there it is. It's a little bit cooler than average up there. Otherwise, again, not much to work with in October. These are very, very difficult charts to interpret. And then finally, we go through to November. And all that happens really in November, we're 6 months away, so it's just for fun. But in November, instead of where we are through most of this, which is average to cooler than average for Europe, we're going average to slightly milder than average, and that's purely because there's slightly more of an Atlantic influence. We know we've got that ridge through the middle part of the Atlantic. We know we've got low pressure up here, so we are probably, we'll be able to pick this up more on the precipitation only, I would suspect. We are probably bringing the jet stream back a little bit more in November. But overall, it does look as though there's no particularly strong signal either way, and I would say through the summer months, and particularly the summer months and the early autumn months, we're probably a little bit biased towards the colder side. That's how I would interpret all of this. And then finally, we go through to precipitation. We come back to June again, which is just 1 month away. So again, hopefully, if everything's working right, it's the most reliable signal. June is looking, well, it's looking a little bit drier than average, really, across England and Wales. A little bit wetter than average for Scotland and Northern Ireland, which is hard to decipher because you should be closest to that blocking feature that's up here, there, but I'm not sure quite what accounts of that. Overall, however, most northwestern parts of Europe look as though they're coming out slightly on the drier side, with southern Europe, interestingly, looking a little bit wetter. So essentially in June, it's wetter in the south and drier in the north. Moving through to July, this looks quite a decent month in July, although the temperatures weren't all that much to write home about. We've got mostly dry conditions across England and Wales, and going into Central Europe as well. That's because there's the ridge that's going through there. The jet stream is up here. Notice again, most parts of Southern Europe, Mediterranean regions, coming out wetter than average. But I think July, if this is right, July could be the best of the summer months, because it could be the fairly dry signal, could be quite a warm signal, not overly hot, because it is still a little bit of an Atlantic influence. But I think July possibly is the best of the summer months. August looks more unsettled. This has been an ongoing sort of trend with the CFS 6 months looking at for quite a while. August coming out a bit wetter than average, if anything, through the UK. Many parts of Europe also looking wetter than average. I was quite dubious about the 700 millibar height anomaly in August. Remember, it's placing the ridge up here. So we've got ridging up to our northeast, which could either be bringing in hot easterly winds. There wasn't much sign of that. Or we could be bringing in the jet stream underneath the ridging, which is up here. And if we're doing that, then we're bringing the air, the flow and the air in off the Atlantic. And I think that is what the model really is going for there. So a cooler, after a decent July, a cooler and more unsettled August. September just looks a little bit on the drier and average side. That's because we've got the ridge sitting out there, so that makes sense, bringing the flow down in that kind of direction. So a little bit drier than average in September. October also coming out drier than average, so quite a nice early autumn, really. High pressure is close to the UK in October. And then November, again, not a huge amount to go with, but you've sort of got the idea there, perhaps, that it's a bit drier. Average down here with high pressure, maybe through the central part of the Atlantic. Possibly a bit wetter than average up here. So perhaps signs that the jet stream is beginning to return a little bit. Looks like it's all going a little bit more westerly, I think, in November. What would happen beyond that? Whether we will go into another Atlantic-driven and mild winter, of course, who can say? And we can't say that that will come off in November either, because it's 6 months away. So let's all say it together. It's just for fun. Right, so that's how CFS 6 Let's Look At is looking this month. Concentrating on the summer months, really. Quite complicated patterns, but I think overall July is the best of it. June is a little bit in between, and then August probably brings it all to a pretty damp and dreary conclusion. I think August is the joker in the pack there for the summer months. It does look quite dubious. The autumn months are too far away to get worried about, but the autumn months possibly hinting at a dryish start, but not overly warm. We'll do it all again next month, of course, and it could all look very different because that's what the CFS V2 does to us. So, do it all over again next month. That one, of course, will take us from July to December. We'll go to the very last month of 2017 with next month's CFS 6 Months Look Ahead. Don't forget to check out Weekend Forecast, and tomorrow, very exciting, it's Solar Sunday. We've only done one Solar Sunday this year. We'll probably only do one more in August, so there's only a total of around 3 Solar Sundays in any year. We've got our second one coming up tomorrow, so quite an exciting day as well. And there'll also be the usual stuff that we do at Dad's Weathers, of course. I think we may have another look at Bank Holiday Weekend. And if you're interested in Glastonbury, very, very exciting with that, because we'll have our second written update for the Glastonbury Festival. So it's all going to be happening. Come back tomorrow for Solar Sunday and the other updates. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.